So first off, Fsbos are a great idea. I think the other lead source I would consider is what would it look like for you to chase expireds and canceleds because they're becoming more frequent again, which is good. So I think you should run those numbers, see if the juice is worth the squeeze, see if you're seeing legitimate homes expire and that simply are just stemming from bad marketing, not paying a co-broke, that type of thing. Um, and I think you can find a way. Obviously, getting the phone number is the most difficult part with expireds, but you can find other ways to create conversation, simply like fucking door knocking them or sending some mail, handwritten notes, certain different things. But I think let's start with the Fsbo conversation. I think I like the pieces that you've referenced. The one big question that I always end up trying to ask a for sale by owner is what is your backup plan? And when you ask, like, because obviously they're trying to sell it themselves, they have dreams and aspirations of selling it by themselves. I'm like, all right, cool, I love all that. I hope that works out for you. Let's say for some reason it doesn't work out. What's your backup plan? And one of two things happens. Okay. One is they tell you that they're going to list with an agent. And they sometimes even say, like, Joe Blow down the street or my good buddy Jim, I'm going to list my home with him. All right. Well, at least we know either there's competition or maybe they've like, yep, I guess I'd have to list with an agent. The other type of response you get is, honestly, I haven't thought too much about that. Either way, you win. Here's why I think this question works so well is generally for sale by owners are a DC personality. They tend to be more dominant, more analytical. If you've ever noticed, most for sale by owners, one of the spouses, if it's a couple, one of them is almost always either a lawyer, accountant, or engineer. Just never.
That's
And it's
that's funny.
because they're dominant and they're detail oriented enough that they think they can do it themselves. And what happens when you ask somebody what the backup plan is to somebody who's a planner, they get value from you helping shine light on something they maybe haven't thought about yet. And that's value to people. Like you're going to win mind share with that type of individual because you're asking a question of like, man, I guess I haven't thought too much about that. That's valuable to them. So either they name they're going to list with an X agent, they're going to name they'll list with an agent, or they're like, well, I haven't thought much about it. Well, then you say, okay, well, what do you think you would need to do? And I almost guarantee you they'll say, well, I guess we'd be forced to list with an agent. Okay, well, what type of agent would you want to list with? What are the things that you'd value in an agent? And you now get them talking about that option. You get them talking about that backup plan. And of course, if you get them talking about it, they associate you with it and you become the backup plan. So that's how I would do it, in addition to the things that maybe you've heard PK talk about. But that's how I would win for sale by owners over pretty consistently is I would try to get them to shine the light on, man, if this plan that you have, and where a lot of people go wrong is they try debating the plan, they try telling them they're wrong. That shit never fucking flies because their personalities are hard-headed, high D's, fuck you, right?
Tell them the
Rather,
wrong, like what would be an example of that?
you tell, hey, Jose, I think your house is overpriced.
Oh, I got you.
They're like, fuck you. No, it's not. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not there for it. So it's the whole idea of you can be saying the right things and you can actually be speaking the truth. It could be overpriced. And the problem is you can be saying the right thing, but they're not in a place to hear it yet.
Yeah.
And I think that's the number one thing I've learned in all of lead conversion is far too often we try giving TED Talks when people simply aren't ready to hear them yet because our wall's still up. They're still afraid of you. And what I found is when you start asking about the backup plan, you get them talking about what they want, their desires. And if you get them talking about the backup plan, then I'll tie it to like, well, by the way, Jose, man, why were you moving in the first place? And you get them talking about motivation. Well, the guard's down at that point.
Yeah.
Now you can say, well, Jose, man, can I be a truth teller with you? And if I've asked questions and listened to them for 10, 15 minutes, can I be a truth teller with you? Say, man, I think your house is probably a little bit overpriced. If I, if you want it, I could show you some comparables. I think based off of these things that I'm looking at, you're probably $30,000 overpriced. How do you think that's going to impact you selling your home? So something like that, now you can be a true teller, but so many of us do it first. Well, you try to
Yeah.
be a true teller and they're like, you haven't earned the proximity. It
Right.
doesn't work.
I
And
was going to say that if you've been on the phone with them for 10, 15 minutes, you've kind of earned the
you're
ability
getting
to speak some
correct.
truth.
Yeah, usually at that point, the wall's down, the barrier's down. It's been a 85% you listening, and then you can be like, hey, can I be a true teller? Hey, here's some things that I would maybe consider if I were you, or have you thought about these different things? That's where it flips. And this is just, it's rooted in psychology of when humans are dysregulated, which is what they are when they're fearful of you, right? If they're fearful, it's dysregulated, meaning that they're not living in their prefrontal cortex where thinking happens. When they're afraid of you, which naturally, if somebody calls you out of the blue, you're going to be afraid of them. You're thinking, what are you fucking trying to sell me? It's just inherent. That's how we operate. How's this guy going to fuck me? How's he going to take advantage of me? It's the normal thing that people have regarding salespeople. And what happens is your functioning of your brain actually moves back into your brain stem and your amygdala, which is home of fight, flight, freeze, or another one known as fawning, but that's not what you'll encounter here. So you'll see people that will fight back, they'll freeze, or they'll flight. They'll just dip out, they'll run. It's because they're afraid. And the problem is very similar to if you've ever you're in a you're in a committed marriage. If your wife is feeling emotional and you try speaking logic to her, how does that come across? You're fucked, right? It never works. Like it never works. Even if your logic is literally a 20 out of 10, it does not matter. And the reason is, again, imagine this. You're thinking here, but she's down here in that moment.
Yeah.
And if you try using logic to fight emotion, it backfires. If anything, it makes it worse. You get more fights back. They run faster. They freeze more. Either way, it's not productive. So what we do to disarm and make people feel comfortable is you ask questions to better clarify what they want. And what we've generally seen is humans, when they feel heard, they become more comfortable. And literally what happens is they stop operating out of the brainstem and the amygdala, and they start functioning here again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. You can almost, I wonder, like, the act of giving, the act of
Yeah.
saying, hey, I'm not, it's cool. Like, don't get me wrong, like I would love your business, but I'm just here to help and be resourceful. It's kind of like pushing it to the front so that
Yep.
when you're there at the right time, they no longer have fear because they've
Right.
gotten to know that you've been a person of giving, right?
The only pushback I'll give you quick is show it, don't say it. Right? How many times have you heard a salesperson say, like, I'm not here to sell you anything? And then they sell you
Right.
some shit, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's better to show it. And for me, the opposite of selling is listening. It's asking, right? So I think you're actually better off not saying, like, hey, I'm not here to sell you anything. You're better off being like, man, I'm just really curious, Jose. Like, help me understand this. Through curiosity, you're literally showing them you're not selling them some shit instead of saying, hey, I'm not here to sell you anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there's
yeah.
some times like some people are like, what are you trying to sell? Like, man, I ain't trying to sell you anything.
Yeah.
Sure. Right. But preemptively saying it can actually backfire sometimes. It could be a trigger of like, oh God, that's what fucking Joe Blow told me. Guy's
Yeah.
annoying as shit. Right. What I can tell you is no great salespeople that have, or no salespeople that have fucked somebody over that has this reputation of being a nasty, gross, and annoying, sleazy salesperson, they don't have a track record of asking questions. That's just not what they do. That's not their MO.
Mhm.
So it's signaling them, it's making them feel more comfortable.
But they've also possibly even had realtors call them and they've already been kind of scarred by that mentality.
Absolutely. It's probably the
Right.
reason when they go Fsbo, I've heard two main reasons they do it. Two main reasons. Number one is we want to save on costs, of course, money. But the second main reason is I don't fucking trust you motherfuckers. I hate real estate agents. And it's probably like 70%, 30%. 70% is just strictly money. 30% is bad experience with a prior real estate agent. to the point where like I can do this myself. They didn't do anything. They didn't justify it. So spot on.
Um, there's a point when you're talking to them when you're asking them what's important to them, right? And
Correct.
some I think I'm going back to what you just said. Some are going to say money, but some,
Mm-hmm.
because they had a bad experience with a realtor,
Yep.
they'll kind of go off that.
Well,
Um,
and your goal in any of it. So money, the goal there is like, I love it. Help me understand what you were going to do next. Because there's a dream for all the money. Money's just numbers. What were you going to do with that money? Right? Almost
yeah,
always. Maybe it's moving somewhere else, being closer to family, whatever, or downsizing, whatever. Might be something. When it comes to a bad agent, my job, and this is actually where it plays really well with expireds too, is if somebody's ever had a bad experience with a real estate agent, where most of us go is we apologize for it and we move on. Okay. Or we try telling them, I would never do that. Right. Somebody says, like, the communication was terrible. Well, I would make sure to, guarantee my communications would be far better than that. I would never do that to you. But again, now it's telling, not showing. This is, what, when Sharon talks about proof over promise, stop
yeah.
fucking promising. Words are promises. Prove it. Proof it. So when people have had bad experiences, you know what I love to do? Dude, when you say you had a bad experience, Jose, tell me about that, dude. What happened? Right? And then he tells me the three different things. Well, this guy, we worked with this dude, he completely screwed us. We missed on our dream homes. Communication was terrible. And then I mastered out of the follow-up question. Okay, when you said he screwed you, tell me about that. What do you mean by that, Jose? Well, he completely forgot to negotiate something. We told him we wanted the hot tub included. He forgot to leave it in there. We didn't get the hot tub. We had to buy one for $7,000. Right? Stories. Fuck agents. Okay. By the way, Jose, dude, that sucks. I'd be so pissed if I were you. I wouldn't trust real estate agents either. Now I'm on his side, right? And then the other thing I'd say is, by the way, you had also you'd also said X about, like, or you said the communication was really poor from that prior agent. Tell me about that. What did that look like? So I am mentally noting the big things he's telling me, and I'm proving to him that I'm a far better communicator than other agents in this industry. I'm proving to him by fucking doing it, not by saying, I'm going to be a better communicator. Nobody that's really good at communicating says, I'm good at communicating. Ever. You ever heard Sharon get up there and say, I'm a fucking great public speaker? No, not needed. Prove it. Just do it. So I think in those moments when people are naming frustrations, bad experiences, my job is to lean in and create like a circle of safety of, man, I want to hear about it. And I'm not going to shit talk. I'm not going to say that other agents suck shit. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm simply going to create a safe place for them to vent about it. And that's where expireds, if you chase expireds or canceled, that's where the huge win takes place, because every expired and canceled wants to vent. Every single one. They want to vent about the market. They want to vent about agents. And if you just turn it into a conversation, like a counseling session every time, frankly, it becomes pretty easy.
What would you say their personality traits is? Like cautious? What
They're
would
all
you
over
say?
the place. Yeah, expires and canceled aren't, they're all over the place simply because everybody gets bit by shitty agents in this game. And there's two types of expireds. There's crazy clients, right? It's a person that, I have a $500,000 house, but I ain't selling it unless I get 650K. And Joe Blow from EXP took the listing on, listed at 650, and they've refused to drop price. Okay. And you're going to run into some of those. Those people, I generally say, run, right?
Right.
You're not going to be able to help them. But then the vast majority of people simply just were working with an agent that wasn't properly influencing them, educating them. And frankly, there wasn't trust there. So even if the agent was right that we need to drop the price, the client was like, go fuck yourself, because there was no trust there.
Right.
So what happens was the agent listed too high, the trust is evaporated, and they need a hard reset. Well, I want to find out the pain points there, but it's a variety of different personality types with expireds and canceled. Fsbo's, DCs, canceled, expired, all over the place.
Is there a certain timeline for expires and cancel that I should prioritize in terms of like how long ago they were canceled more than others, like 18 months,
When I
six
first started
months?
chasing expireds, when I first started as an ISA, when I was just dog, I didn't know shit about real estate, which maybe was a good thing, frankly. Um, I got a list. I literally manually scrubbed 2 years worth of expireds. I went and did 2 years of expireds that canceled or expired. And just to make sure we're talking the same language, expired meant what listing contract for 6 months and expired. Canceled meant they were listed and then they decided to completely cancel the listing agreement. Some places I know also confuse that with withdrawn. They literally call cancel withdrawns. Withdrawn for us is it's still an active listing. It's just we're taking it off for 1 month because we're renovating the house before we go active again. So just know that when I'm saying canceled, the contract is dead again, and
Gotcha.
expired means the contract is dead. And some states use different language. Um, but I went through and did 2 years worth, and I literally just manually scrubbed all of them. And I think I had a list of about 450, 500 houses in the Fargo-Moorhead area that had canceled, that I had accurate phone information for, and I made sure they had not relisted or sold again.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting about 40 of those to list over the next 2 years out of 450, so about a 10% clip. So I went back as far as 2 years. I think it's a combination of different things. Um, you're probably well suited. I think I would, for me, I was going back to like this was 2013, so I was like, man, I'm going back to people that have done it really since the market shifted heavily, and which was for us 9, 10. Obviously, everything started to play out 7, 8 all the way through. Um, but for you, I'd probably go back to like 22, January 22, whenever the market shift really started to flip for you guys.
Okay.
What other questions you got?
I'm thinking for some reason the efficiency of like tools and systems in terms of like right now going to Zillow, I look at the property address, see the name, I
Oh,
look at the number, and I use something called AI Identified where I can see like their email address, phone number, just to see like to verify it.
yeah, yeah. Well,
But it's with a
Zillow phone
purpose.
numbers, what I'll name is Zillow phone numbers on Fsbo's are right 99% of the time, unless it's a fake listing. Those ones, it's expireds and canceled where, God, the phone numbers are almost always, for us at least, they're removed. So the smart agents go delete the phone number from the listing.
Gotcha.
And that's where you could use that AI thing to see if they find the information or look up. We
Gotcha.
use land voice forever. Doesn't really matter which one.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, the big thing with expireds and canceleds, and really Fsbo's, I really make the argument that you're probably better off chasing day 2 and beyond with all of them because we'll see what happens now with the market, but old expires when people were chasing it, like prior to 2020, people would get pounded on day 1, just pounded.
Yeah.
And then nobody would call it day 2 and beyond. It was just basically,
Hmm.
oh, one of my dollars, I'm calling day 1.
Why is
So
that?
calling, um, humans are to follow the simplest path. So most people that are chasing expireds are using automated programming where it expired today, call it through your list. And then they just simply don't have time to keep calling the leads that say call again the next day. They don't do it. They don't call day 2, 3, 4. It just falls off. They're like, I'll call day 1. And I actually think if you're better off being a call day 2, 4, 7, 10 person more than a call day 1 person because you
Yeah.
have no competition comparatively. Now, is it bad to call both? Sure, absolutely. Or good to call both? Yeah. Call day 1 and more. But not always not feasible.
Cool. Okay, man. I'll lean off this and just start taking action a little bit at a time. And
Cool.
if there's anything that I have, I'll probably just drop you a follow. But I'm just going to start little by little, start taking action on this and see what kind of momentum I can create.
Cool. I like it. I'll send you this recording. If you need me to chat with Danny, by the way, at all or anything, you let me know. Like my offer still stands, even without Betsy and all that. I don't give a fuck about them. More than willing to come down there for Danny. I respect his choice either way. Uh,
Yeah,
I don't know the history that he has with those others, but we'd be honored if he named you, and if he names you, more than willing to come down there in sometime in August.
yeah.
If they name Spring and Amy, not coming down there in August. Just fucking saying it's not happening. So not gonna fly. So, anyways, that
Cool,
offer
man.
still stands.
Right now, dude. All right, man. I appreciate it. Okay.
Absolutely, dude. We'll talk later, Jose. See you,
All
bud.
right. See ya.
Bye.